course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane's Full Course Yellow, our regular Tuesday night to get together where we talk all things motorsport and a little more as well. Joining us on the program tonight, let's have a look at who's joining me for this evening. Alongside me is Craig Doc Gladigo. We've got Peter Johnson, our Formula One tragic, and all the way from Queensland, the Emperor of Queensland himself, Sir Jones Bielke Mark. So, guys, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Brett. Welcome yourself. It's great to be back on the screens another week. And there's
no, it's not. Don't fib. It's not great to be back at all. We're here under sufferance. Let's face it.
Oh, I don't think so. It's good to catch up each week and chew the beans.
Yeah, because there's not a lot. I mean, I think, as Pete was saying before, it's all about liveries. In terms of supercars, it's all livery. We've had the updated livery for Walkinshaw Andretti United was unveiled sometime today. We've seen quite a few liveries. Doc, you and I were out at Young Timers Garage on the weekend.
Didn't we feel it?
Yeah, and they've got some amazing cars out there. I'll do a bit of a feature on that a little bit later, and we'll probably go around there and have a chat to them at some stage. They've also Shane, who's in charge, the guy in charge out there. They've also bought the rights to the Elfin brand, and that's interesting to see what they've got planned there. But there were some interesting cars.
Pretty little picture on the wall caught my eye too, which I come down and dropped the news. They had the rights from Supercars to sell the homologation cars they used back in the early days, the mules, the full kitted out start of the Gen 3. So it was just the Ford Mustang, and it had the horse and the blue and the white on it, and also the Camaro when it was back in the GM style. So I saw pictures of it, and I saw him with certificates and stuff like that and photos, but I still don't know who they went to because it was all kept very secret last year. So anyway, I'm sure they went for a pretty penny, but I think we had a guess that they were going up north, maybe Bielke, Peterson, Mark Jones's Sir's way.
So there you go. We've got let's say hello to a few of the regulars. Box joining us again after a couple of missed weeks. Yes, we have missed you, Box. Good to catch up with you once again. Paul van den Akker is with us. With us again. G'day to Knackers. He points out quite rightly, Doc looks like he's about to fall asleep. I don't know if Doc looks like he's about to fall asleep. I feel like I'm about to fall asleep. But
yeah, well, I'll be waking up soon. I've got a whole raft of MotoGP news from the fallout from Sepang, and there's some massive news that have come. Two big things that have come out from the weekend. I'll drop because I've spent hours analysing it. So if I look like I'm about to fall asleep, knackers, it's because I've been doing my homework.
Well, we had so much over the weekend as well. I mean, as we said earlier, Doc and I were out at Young Timers Garage for the Erebus launch. And if you haven't seen it already, we have interviews with Jack LeBrock, with Cooper Murray, and of course with Barry Ryan. And we might talk about that in just a moment. So we caught up with those guys out there. And we also, over the weekend, there was Asian Le Mans Series was on. There was that the MotoGP launch. There was plenty of drag racing on various online forums, so there was lots and lots of stuff to watch, and it just continues this weekend with the opening round of the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship, probably the earliest I can remember them starting the championship, happening at Sandown this weekend. I've only seen a couple of the entry lists. So not sure about the numbers at this early stage, but one car that is entered and will be out there is John Goulet's new Audi, which looks exactly like his old Audi, but not driven by Jordan Caruso or Darren Hossack or Jack Perkins or anybody who's driven the car in the past. It's going to be driven by young Caleb Ambrose, who was a guest of ours on In Pit Lane last year. No relation to Marcus, of course, but more to Rowan Ambrose, who raced specialist in Mazdas, in RX-7s, in improved production, and dominated improved production racing back in the day. And Caleb, of course, has been very successful in Excel racing. So I say that's one hell of a jump, going up from a sort of 98 horsepower front wheel drive Excel up to a 780 horsepower mid-engined Audi Chev powered Audi sports sedan.
I
So
hope there's
he'll
some
have
extra
his hands.
installation. Yeah, hope there's some extra installation laps been included in before that.
Well,
Not
the
the
worry.
not the only XL racer who's making a huge jump in categories, but I'm sure we'll come to that.
Yes, it really is the place. It really is the place, the new place that people are being found now. It's sort of in a way replaced Formula Ford, which I'm not sure is a good or a bad thing, because obviously it gives them it's a lot more affordable, and it gives them that if they're going into sedans, it does give you that sort of the run and bump and all of that sort of thing. But I think in terms of racecraft, I'd feel much more comfortable if they had a few years in an open wheeler where they can learn to race closely without running and bumping and crashing into each other. But
And there is the front wheel drive, rear wheel drive hurdle to overcome coming from XLs. So there's always a few challenges, but if you're talented, then none of that's going to make a difference.
Bit of karting experience behind that helps a little bit though too.
well, yeah, he has got lots of experience in that, and he's also driven some improved production. He's also driven some of his dad's cars, the RX-7s, as well. So he's not he's very young. He's not a total. Not a total rookie at rear-wheel drive racing, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes. It's not a bad entry for the sports sedans. It's there's a few good cars in there. I think Dean Cam in the Chev in the Corvette is there, and Chaz Talbot in his Camaro. There's quite a few of the leading cars turned up for the weekend. It is the forecast, however, is for showers on. Both Saturday and Sunday, mostly Saturday. So
Weather's a sports sedan's favourite thing.
yes, that's something. But thankfully it'll cool down a bit. I think it's because it's going to be 34 here tomorrow, 37 on Thursday, similar low 30s on Friday, and then to typical Melbourne on Saturday it's going to be a top of a sweltering 17 degrees.
Yeah, 16 and 17 for Saturday, Sunday. I'm looking at it. Yeah.
What I wouldn't do for a 17-degree day at the moment. It doesn't even get that low at night.
No, it's not here either. It's been brutal. The past
18, 19s all the way through until that crazy 2 days. Yeah. Oh well. That'll be a wet launch or a cold launch for Team 18 then. Speaking of other launches.
Yeah, they're hoping to go out for that. Not sure whether they're going to make it now. There's just so much stuff to do. I'm just sort of caught up with a whole bunch of stuff. I'm already getting to the stage. I got the Erebus stuff out as quickly as I could, but I've fallen even further behind with the speedway stuff, and also the none of the Bathurst stuff has come out yet. I just don't have time to. I'm looking at about sort of 60 to 80 hours of editing over the next couple of weeks to get all that stuff out, and I don't have 60 to 80 hours at the moment. So, David.
The Erebus stuff was a priority, though, especially with the season impending and the amount of launches. So, everyone was interested to see where Erebus came out the other side from its Bathurst win. And as you called it, and you said probably the most common word for the year was tumultuous. So, we won't go into it, but just people jump on YouTube themselves or on the In Pit Lane Facebook page and follow the link that Brett's conveniently put up for you and have a look at it. You'll be it's some great stories with Cooper and Jack LeBrock, but it was good. It was good to see. Have a lot of respect for Barry's honesty and calling a spade a spade. So I don't think you'll get many surprises with that interview, but he was fairly open about his thoughts.
The interesting thing was, I mean, you can tell that he hates that sort of thing. I mean, watching back when I was doing the editing, he doesn't really look at these. He kept his sunglasses on. He doesn't look at the camera even when he's talking. He's looking off, and you can tell with every fibre of his being, he's going, "I really, really hate this." But at the same
Yeah,
time, he was
he goes
very
through it.
open. There was no problem of like when you went and saw him and said, we have a chat?" He was like, "Yeah, okay," and I left it out, but as you will know, I mean, if anybody doubts it, because I've had a couple of people go, yeah, what conditions were on? There were no conditions on it. In fact,
Oh, come
it is
on.
on the on the actual tape when I said, thanks for joining us, and he said, ask me anything you like. I'm happy
Yeah,
to be
and
here. Ask me anything that you like. So
And yeah,
yeah,
look, he was reserved. He reserved at the whole promo launch as well too. He stood off to the side. He only did the group photo when everyone was involved. He just talked to quietly people off to the side. That's it. And look, and there's two things. One, yes, he did have his sunnies on, but I could see from the angle he did have the respect to look at you and I when we were asking questions. When he was through the question a little bit, then he would look away a little bit. And then also, I spoke as you were winding things down with the camera, and I was walking and shaking his hand, saying thanks very much. And I did tell you straight after. He goes, "Oh, this is the usual stuff I usually get in trouble for." So I said, "No, I don't think you've gone out on a limb with any of that one, Barry."
The only thing that was interesting that I thought in terms of something new was the fact that we made the comment about the sponsors leaving. The first thing he said was, and there's a couple of those who I think are regretting that now. And he was very quick to sort of say that they might have. They might have jumped a bit quick, and they might have jumped, sort of having sort of, realised what was going on. Some of them, I think, might have turned around now and gone, oh, perhaps we could have ridden that out for a few more days and just perhaps waited to get the other side of the story. And I think that was the problem, is they basically heard one side of the story and jumped, and then they heard the other side of the story and went, okay, yeah.
But great
But
interview from
anyway,
home. Yep.
was that?
I said a great interview from three of them all the same. Really good. None of them had a problem, including Barry. We have a chat. Absolutely no worries at all and come across. So there was
The
no.
interesting thing was, and I've heard this a few times from people at Erebus, is those connections. I mean, both Jack LeBrock and Cooper Murray had long-term family connections or long-term connections with Barry. For Jack, Barry was his engineer in his Formula Ford days, and Cooper Murray, his father and Barry raced karts together and have been very friendly for years. And of course, the co-drivers have come up through Terry Wyhoon's Image Racing organisation, and Barry and Terry are really good mates. You see on some of the cutaways that we put some of the B-roll that on the back window of both cars is memory of Dana Wyhoon, Terry's wife, who unfortunately passed away last year. And was a very close friend of Barry's, and they're running that tribute livery, that tribute
And
message to her throughout the year, which is
not
lovely.
breaking news, but Cooper was good enough to right off the bat when you were chatting to him said that we're off up to Winton, off to the
No,
Bend,
the bend.
off to the Bend yesterday and doing some practice. So that was
Well,
that was
as we saw, they weren't wasting any time. As soon as the unveiling happened, we went into Young Timers Garage to film some stuff there, and I got talking with a few people and a few viewers from the show. And g'day guys, thanks for your kind words about the show and all the rest of it. And came out, and the cars were already loaded into the transporter, and they was all being locked up and ready to go. So they were jumping in and they were taking off straight away for the trip over to Adelaide. So they tested over there. Because Cooper's a rookie driver, they had the opportunity of doing a little bit of extra testing, which is what, as Barry said, he said it's an advantage that they took that they wanted to take advantage of. So, but yeah, nice guy Cooper, very interesting that he sort of said that like he's. I asked him about, as you'll see in the interview, I asked him about sort of what was beyond the possibility of racing beyond supercars in terms, he's only very young, perhaps after he's, if he has a successful career, what he might be looking at afterwards. And he basically said, no, I'm not looking at, I'm just focused on, I'm a supercar driver. That's all I've wanted to do. I want to be a supercar driver. I want to be a successful supercar driver. That's it. And then Barry said later that was one of the things that attracted him to, in terms of the team, by saying that, he was just so, he's very, very focused. And so yeah, I think he'll do well. I think they've got a great track record of finding talent. They just don't have a great track record of keeping them.
That's well, Murray's been an absolute star in the latter categories. Of course, he was came out of Porsches and then into Super Twos, and he's just been fantastic. So very much looking forward to see how it'll go. And Jack LeBrock has been fulfilling on some of the promise that he showed earlier on, and he had a lack, if memory serves, a slightly lackluster stint with FPR back when they were a 4-driver team, but he's looked back from that at all, and very much looking forward.
He's had a few
JLB.
teams. I think that I think that he was sort of the opinion that now he's very focused. He's the senior guy there now in terms of like experience. He's the even though there's no lead driver as such, he feels the experience of being there the longest in terms of being a driver. And there's all this young talent coming in. You've got 3 drivers who are new to or drivers who are fairly new to the team and to the whole scene, and he feels the responsibility of sort of pushing them, of helping them along and bringing them up to speed with whatever they need. And I think he certainly sounded like he's looking forward to that opportunity and that responsibility. So
he said he hopes he's got 6 to 8 left in him. He said, remember?
Yeah, well, that's what he said, that he was hoping that sort of like another 6 or 8 years of regular racing at the top level, and that he'd be very happy to get out of that. So that'll be interesting. But yes, Team 18 on the Saturday. Don't know whether we'll make it or not. We'll try, but with the Sandown on and a few other things I've got hooked up at the moment. But if we can get down there, and also if we can make the technology work, we eventually did go live on both Facebook and YouTube, but it was. It really was a last minute. It really was a last minute thing, because the original stream that we'd set up did not work for some reason. I think I found the reason for that too. But we'll so hopefully if we do something from Team 18 on Saturday, we might be able to go live there and do
I won't quote the word for word, but between the two of us, we threw something together, and it ended up more than what we planned. So. We got Facebook and YouTube covered, and we're only planned on one of them. So they got the.
We mentioned earlier. I'll just bring this up quickly, for just in case he disappears. You mentioned MotoGP. Well, of course they had their launch over the weekend. They had their testing in Sepang, and then they went to Thailand to launch the series. And Ligi is joining us from Bangkok. So I don't know. Did you go along? Did you go to the MotoGP launch, or what was the? Perhaps you could fill us in with what the reaction is over there. That'll be the first round of Moto.
Please, Ligi. Yes, absolutely. That'd be fantastic. I won't. I don't know if you want me to kick it off now, but
yeah, you might as well. I mean, because that was a big deal. Let's go for it.
I'll run the two wheels I'll run a wheelie over the launch first. Really good. The concept was great, fantastic. They call themselves MGP this year. They've started phasing the MotoGP away and calling them. So I think they're just I don't know if it's going to be rebranding throughout the year, but anyway, it takes a bit to get used to.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit taking the used to it for us old diehards like I've been around for decades watching it and going to it.
Well, I
But launch
still
was
call
really
them
good.
500cc, so even though they're not, yeah.
Sure. They definitely sounded good back in their time though as well.
They did.
No, there was no restrictions on those mufflers, that's for sure. Back then, they were fully blown, and Doohan and Gardner and the likes of and the Horsham Hurricane let the crowd know. And anyway, I won't go into the internationals. Great launch, great concept, awesome idea. It was fantastic how they got all the riders together, got the absolute team bikes there and showcased them on a brilliant stage and graphics and LEDs and even the timeline. They did it all, but it was just a little bit corny. They could have done the compares a little bit unknown, a little bit unrehearsed, and also a little bit shaky on the names and also probably the way MotoGP runs and the production on them. But they tried their best, and I'm sure they'll build on it. So, and they also got the riders jumping on some factory street machines, flying around, doing some laps and wheelies and stands and a few burnouts. That was really good. Had a couple of little mishaps, some little difficulties, but great fun. Hope you're still with us, Lidgy. Please throw Brett a message, and if you did happen to go, because they were throwing out merchandise left, right, and centre, and really turning it on for the fans, and they were telling the fans to carry on like pork chops, and they did their best. So it was really good. But the Sepang test was huge. I can't remember a 3-day test that's leading into a MotoGP season unlike this one. It's just raised so many questions this year compared to other years. The two biggest stories that have come out of it is one, Ducati have got 2 years start in the next week or two to decide on what engine they'll use, because the 2024 engine is still faster than their 6 months of winter European testing, the 2025, and they have to choose at the start of the year whether they will start before the first race, whether they run last year's engine, which is still quicker than the 25 one, or go with the 25 one, which they cannot develop either. And they are locked in for the next 2 years before the next set of rules take place at the end of 2026. So huge decision. Do they throw everything in the bin that they've worked on in 6 months, or just put it into the back of the warehouse and put it on ice and run the 2024 bike and engine, because they cannot develop? Because MotoGP have got 4 tiers. They've got tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the manufacturers. And if you're in tier 1, you cannot change and you cannot develop your engine. Tier 2, there's no one in it at present. Tier 3 has got Aprilia and KTM, so they can make small modifications and improvements. And Tier 4 gives the most concessions to Yamaha and to Honda. So those 4 tiers are all locked in, and that's what's going to happen in the next 2 years. So really big decision for Ducati where they go with this, keeping in mind as well too that all the residual teams and the satellite teams, and on top of the factory one, have all got 2024 spec bikes as well now too. So, and the other huge news that came out from the 3 days, 14 laps into day 1 of the Sepang test, Jorge Martin binned it, and he high-sided himself up in the air, flipped it, and smashed himself into that tarmac so hard. He's got 3 broken fingers and a broken toe. The toe and the leg, it looks worse than what it really is, all wrapped up before he went for surgery. But the hand is the big issue with the 3 broken fingers. So that was huge news. They really put the skids on Aprilia for the whole 3 days on their development. You've got the reigning champion, who definitely I can put. I think the next Veron, I think it is, testing starts tomorrow. He definitely won't be riding in that, and that was just from the feedback over the weekend from the launch, and just really put the thing into that. Some big news, some of the lesser news, but still big. I'll just run over the top of it quickly. 4 riders in the 156s, and that is great because 157 was the benchmark, thereabouts. Most riders were in the 157s. Yamaha have found 8/10 of a second and caught up to the other to the caddies basically at this stage. So Quartararo is very competitive, but there's been a big, massive chassis change at Yamaha there. So they've changed the whole chassis, welded it differently, and that'll change how what bike behaves and how it flexes. when they ride it. Espargaro was the fastest over 10 laps, Eloy Espargaro. Well done him. Pedro Acosta also was the quickest ever there in his personal best time of 1:57. Zeki needs to be more aggressive with his tyres. So when they did his interview, he said, I come back after my first stint and the team told me, get out there, start throwing around. The new Mishi tyres need to be put through their paces immediately. You cannot tread around on eggshells. The biggest tech for the weekend was the new cellar box, they're calling it the new nickname. So at the back of the bike, you've just got the exhaust coming up the side. You've got those little winglets everyone's been putting in. But now they're taking away a little bit of Formula One and they've put what's called the cellar box, which really is just a dampener. So it'll help with aerodynamics, it'll help with downforce, and they say it will also be a big part in their takeoffs on the bike as well, though, too, from their standing starts. The thing as well, so the fastest was not Marquez over the 3 days. It was his brother, Alex Marquez, and he did a 1:56.4, absolutely flying on that satellite Ducati. And that's a wrap. I think I've covered all the big decisions and big developments over the 3 days.
The interesting thing was, I mean, Jack Miller was down a bit, but when you had a look at the time, as you say, they were desperately close. I mean, there was basically a second was covering most of the field, including Jack. So there's not a lot between them. So it'll be interesting to see what the next round of testing, as you say, I think it starts tomorrow, will look like. And so they're kicking off. They're kicking off fairly soon. Formula
one last thing: Bagnaia versus Marquez at Factory Ducati. Keep an eye on that one. Keep an eye on the rivalry there for the year.
Formula One, not a lot of news around. Although I saw today that Adrian Newey is crying poor. He's claiming that the cost cap is costing Formula One talent, both behind the wheel and in engineering and design. We're losing people to the World Endurance Championship because of the cost cap. They're all leaving us because the money is apparently so much better in WEC and Formula One. They need to raise the cost cap, which is interesting.
Well, that makes me laugh a bit in terms of Adrian, because he's been paid an absolute fortune and has a partnership in the team. So he's on a fairly good wicket. So I don't know that he should throw stones, really.
No, it's a bit funny to hear the Formula One crying poor. And I can't see anybody. I can't see any young talent or any talent at all sitting there saying, "No, look, thanks for the offer to drive your Mercedes or your Aston Martin or your Red Bull or whatever in Formula One." But no, I'd actually rather race LMP2 in the European Le Mans series because I can get more money there. As if.
I suppose there is. I mean, there's some allied development going on there. Both categories are hybrid turbos. Well, at least a lot of them are hybrid turbos. I mean, we do have the hybrid V8 Cadillac, and the forthcoming not hybrid at all Aston Martin Valkyrie.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, now he's in terms of developing in like Ferrari, there's clearly a synergy between sort of what's happening in the WEC with the Ferrari and with Formula One. I mean, that's one of the reasons that it said that they joined WEC is because they knew they'd have to sort of lay off a lot of talented people, and they thought, well, if rather than lay them off, we'll move them sort of sideways. We'll put them into the WEC, and we'll be able to get a bit of cross pollination going between the two. And it looks like that's what Toyota might end up doing, because the talk is increasingly loud that Toyota will come back to Formula One sometime towards 2028 or something, and that's part of the deal as well. That they'll, I think it was somebody from Toyota said, we've learned valuable lessons in hybrid technology, and and efficiency out of our World Endurance Championship program, and we'll take that over and possibly apply it to Formula One. So, whereas Aston Martin, they're going to have a Formula One car and a World Endurance Championship car, but there's really nothing apart from having four wheels and some wings. There's really nothing. There's really nothing sort of in common between the two of them. As you say, one's a great big what is it, V12 Cosworth normally aspirated engine, which sounds fantastic, and one of them's without a hybrid. And the other one is, of course, the Formula One car,
1.5
which
litre
doesn't sound
hybrid turbo. Yeah.
yeah.
And there's very little. I mean, there's very little in common with the two Aston Martin programs. Not just on the technical side, but there's no like the two teams are really very separate. So there's not anything going on from one to the other.
No, and you have to wonder. I mean, obviously it's a marketing thing, but you can see that as we've said before, and we discussed with Ford's return to the WEC as well. That's just around the corner, and that's certainly not the last one because it's looking like the McLaren announcement is probably going to come fairly soon, and there's still talk of other manufacturers interested in joining Ford and Genesis and McLaren and in terms of coming in. So don't know who they are at this stage, but certainly, Graham Goodwin from Daily Sports Car, he's got his nose to the grindstone and his ear to the wall, and seems to know a few things that are just around the corner, and he's sort of saying that by the time we get to Le Mans this year, we may have even more manufacturers joining the World Endurance Championship. Problem is, where the hell are you going to put them all?
Well, I mean that will entirely justify the sorry, wrong category. It was the LMP. The LMP3s were raced in IMSA, not at Le Mans. My bad. But yeah, the dropping the LMP2s from the World Endurance Championship as well, I suppose, is for some of those smaller circuits that they go to. But yeah,
When you look at
it
the field for the Asian Le Mans round, the 4 hours of Dubai on the weekend, that was what 44 cars or something racing there. It was
mind you,
a
it was
quality field.
Well
it was,
supported
but
too, yeah.
But more than half the field though were the GT3s. There was actually not, and in fact the LMP3 grid was quite narrow at only 7 cars. LMP
Yeah, but that's been a trend for a while, Mark. So I mean,
yes, it has. I mean,
they're not developing them, and they're not making new ones much. So they're really only just refurbing the ones that they've got because it's not a huge supporter base there. So I mean, I reckon it was great to see at least 7 of those cars, and yes, some of them were getting passed by the leader of the GT3s after a few hours, but. And that comes down to some of the minor mishaps and the spins and mechanical reasons. But I thought it was quite good still to see, that small, even if it's a small amount, they're still allowed to race. They're still putting it out there, and teams are still supporting them. I think, especially when they're in their vintage years now. And
a teenage Aussie won the race on Sunday in LMP3 in young Griffin Peters. Chinese Australian, I believe. He's he's born in China. I don't know that he's actually Chinese, but yeah, he's been doing the rounds of various Formula 4 championships in Europe the last couple of years, and that's his debut in big sports car racing, and he's come away with a win. So huge for Griffin and for the Breton team that he was racing in.
Yeah, well, as we said a couple of weeks ago, it would be really nice to see the Asian Le Mans Series come back to Australia. And as we've said, they've said very openly that they would love to come back at some stage. The problem that they've got now is they've created a monster in terms of they coordinate, they concentrated everything into the Middle East during COVID and ran it that way, and suddenly found out that that was a really attractive way to get lots of entries in from Europe, because it's not as far, and also they've got sort of 4 or 6 races over sort of 2 or 3 weekends. It's a nice short sharp little series, and at the end of it all, the winner gets an invite to the big dance at Le Mans in June. So.
But it's also
Yeah.
pleasing that the majority of the grid that's doing the 2 Arabian rounds also did Sepang. A couple of the opening round at Sepang,
Yeah.
Malaysia, 2 months ago,
Yeah.
and so that's as pleasing to see as anything else in the series, I think.
With so much racing going on and still one round to go. I mean, when I mean racing, everywhere, every sport, every style, every way to flick around the track. Having only the 3 rounds, it is great, but it's still, they've spaced it out quite well, and it's difficult to fit in the calendar, like we've always said these days. So
It looks like we've lost Pete
It's
somewhere. Pete's dropped out, but hopefully he'll be back online. He'll be back online soon. Okay, so that's So not a lot
and
happening in the
also,
world of. Yep.
oh, before we leave Asian Le Mans series, heading into that final round in LMP2, James Allen is in the running to take the title.
I keep
yeah,
saying,
number
how
30
how the hell do they keep ignoring this guy? I mean, he has won just about everything he's won at Le Mans, he's won at Daytona, he's won almost everywhere. He's in contention once again with this, and yet I've never heard anybody say, like, in terms of moving up into the main game. You never hear his name mentioned, and I don't know whether it's just because of lack of money or what it is that's keeping him out. But he's certainly proven time and time and time again that he's got the talent.
Yep. Got the consistency there, yeah, on the runs on the board and consistently doing it.
And he's second place in he and his RD Limited team, which is for Romain Dumas, just by the way,
Yeah.
second in the points heading into the championship finale. So there's and the team he's fighting, and it's going to be a 3-car shootout, it looks like, and the other 2 cars, one ahead and one behind, are both from Algarve Pro, and they are a proper racing outfit, APR. So that's going to be very tough to win.
Go to the number 30 car.
Oh yeah, that would
Go to
be
number
fantastic.
30. Watch it. I had it on the background the weekend. Yeah, it was good. Barracking for it. Here he is.
Yeah, Pete. Yeah, we got Pete back.
Hey.
But anyway, yeah. So that was good news. Good news there. Good something to watch on the weekend. So So anybody got any other news? We've got some speedway news. Paul.
GT4.
Paul is,
Just before you run away from GT racing, GT4. The rumor mills. Someone and somewhere has put I think it was a post. It might have been a Murdoch inspired post. Why can't the GT4s have their own endurance race? And it does have some merit.
They've said that. I mean, they said that on the show 2 years ago. I mean, down at Phillip Island, it was planned for a 3 to 4 hour GT4 endurance race at Bathurst as part of either the Easter event or the Bathurst International, and they were pushing for that for either one of those.
This it sells itself. GT4 for 4 hours Bathurst. GT4 for 4.
GT4 for 4. 4 for 4. 4 for 4.
Only
GT triple 4.
The only guys that may not like it would be the production cars, but they've had their nose out of joint.
Well,
before.
they've got a
Well,
really
it
good
would be in
feel
their
for.
race.
Yeah, they've got a. I mean, that would be the worrying thing. I think that there was some talk at some stage about saying, oh, let's have the GT4s move back into the 6 hour, and that's not going to work. I mean, the 6 hour for whatever you think of production car racing and and whatever, the 6 hour is an enormous success in terms of entries. I think it's
Great.
how
Yeah.
it's a ridiculous amount. I think it's about 70 cars have entered or something. So
And I can't think of a better way of spoiling that than sticking the GT4s
that'd be the
into
end.
into
Yeah,
that
that'd be the
race.
end of it. Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, they feel that they were sort of which they were. They feel they were driven out of the 12 hour. They felt it was their race, and I think it was a good move to to go to the GT3. It's turned into a major international event. As I said, the race that track deserves. But over the Easter break, the 6 hour has found its niche, and certainly up at Bathurst, a couple of weeks ago, so many people, and particularly the locals, saying, "Oh, you should come back for the 6 hour." It's heaps of fun. It's a great, if the weather's good, and that's the big if. But if the weather's good, it's a great weekend. It's lots of fun, very relaxed, great atmosphere. Everyone has a ball, and you'd be very welcome. So I really would like to go up and do it, but be interesting to see what they do. I think the other thing was that a lot of people said, well, it would be nice to see those GT4 cars in the 12 hours, but the GT4 competitors basically said, no, we're not interested. One, it's too expensive, and two, we're just going to be spending half the race looking in our rear view mirrors and being passed by the really big guys, the fast
Staying as
guys.
far away from an accident as
And
possible.
Yeah,
and
so
not
we're
getting
not
any
interested.
TV.
Not getting any,
The
not getting any TV, or not getting much TV anyway. So, um, and that is a problem, and it's a problem in every category at the moment. I saw that, there was the move. I think might have discussed it briefly. The V8 classic touring cars, or whatever they're called, Derek Hocking's sort of group. They jumped in and were going to run with the IRC cars, and then the IRC guys said, well, we're also going to bring in some of those older GT3 cars that basically aren't able to run at state series level anymore, so we'll give them somewhere to run, and they'll fit in perfectly with our cars. And I don't know what the feedback was, whether it was just like from other competitors with the thing, but Derek went on his Facebook page and said, no, sorry, I jumped the gun. We're not going to do it now. It's that deal is off, and we're looking for somewhere else to race now. And when everybody said, well, you're perfectly entitled to race with sports sedans. You could race with the New South Wales and the Victorian sports sedan guys. You could, and it's like, no, we don't. We're not racing with sport. We're not a sports sedan. We want our own race, and it doesn't matter whether it's 6 cars or 16 cars or whatever. We want our own race, and that's it. So, every kiddie wins a prize.
and sports sedans don't want their series like the V8 touring cars want to be their own identity. They don't want to be and sports sedans are quite right in thinking that no, we don't want someone in our class that wants to do their own thing. So yeah,
The problem
it's
is in the old
technically,
days. Yeah.
I mean, they're a match technically, but that's it. The cars are able to run, and that otherwise they're the ambitions of the.
There are enough technical. There's enough technical differences and sort of rule changes into that make them sort of not 100% compliant with sports sedans without some modifications. And like in the old days, you would get like a Group C or even a Group A or one of the early model supercars, And the Victorian series was chock-a-block full of them. You'd get a car from Glenn Seaton or Dick Johnson or the Kelly brothers or somebody like that. You get a rolling chassis. You'd whack a 6-litre Chev into it, make a few modifications here and there. Put a few extra, composite panels on it to lighten it up and make it more suitable for sports sedan racing, and get some very very cheap and very reliable and competitive races. I mean, we saw people like Bob Gill and Milton Safaris, a whole bunch of people in the Victorian State Series ran older sort of supercars and older Group C cars, and was very competitive. But they don't want to
Not
do
just
that
Victoria.
now.
Yeah, not just Victoria. Like Terry Finnegan's Group C Commodore had a long life after the fact in Queensland sports sedan racing. I remember watching that car in pink and blue. The car turned into as a sports sedan for quite a long time. That was one memory of watching Queensland sports sedan racing.
There was a lot of ex touring car AUs that needed a new home to race to. Ugly ex AU cars that needed to go in all states. Exactly.
Yeah, they were very popular, but they have changed. They have changed along the way. So we've got there. Paul, so a couple of speedway things. James McFadden, the Warrnambool Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic. There were some problems because of catch fencing being damaged, and the curfew sort of kicked in, which saw the cancellation of the B&A main races, the prelim races. So so that was a bit of a problem. That sort of thing always happens. It happens at Speedway all the time. Happens at the drag racing. Once you got curfews around, it does create a bit of a problem. The other big news is that, and this was going to be a good meeting by the way, but Avalon's meeting that has been cancelled because of the low entry numbers. As he said, but looking at the weather forecast, probably a good move with in hindsight. But
because VA Dirt Modifieds are having their nationals this weekend at Premier Speedway.
Oh right, yeah. So that'll I'm not sure what could be judging by the weather in this forecast for Melbourne. It could be a bit damp and cool down there. If we're talking 17 degrees as a top temperature, 17 degrees and strong likelihood of showers. It could be a bit interesting down there, but it's happened a lot in a lot of country speedways. A lot of Druin and Niora and a few other they have had to cancel meetings this year, and drag racing as well. There's been quite a few that have just had to say, look, we just don't have enough to. There is some interesting news from Paul. Murray Bridge Speedway. It's close to the bend. It's a good little motorsport. It turned into a good little motorsport area there with Mount Gambier and all the rest of it. So really good motorsport hub. And I know a couple of people who've actually moved into that area for that very reason. They've sort of said, well, like we can, for their speedway, you've got basically between, as far east as Avalon and as far west as, some of the speedways in Adelaide. So, it's a good thing. So, interesting to see. Would be interesting to see if Sam and the team at the Bend if they were interested at all. The drag strip's just been a huge success. That's one of the best drag strips in the world now. They're setting every time they go out there. They seem to set records. Incidentally, congratulations to our mate Carl Cox, who ran his new Barracuda Pro Mod up at Sydney Dragway on the weekend. Set the top qualifier time and ultimately finished runner-up in the Pro Mod category in that Pro Charger powered.
Well done, CC.
There, so so that's a lovely looking car, lovely sounding car. Saw a bit of live streaming from there on just some casual sort of phone stuff. And the car sounded $1 million. So yeah, good luck and good to see that car in Australia. And as you remember, Doc, when we spoke to him, he said that he was apart from that car, he was also building a dragster powered by the same engine. So yeah, so that'll be interesting. I think he's intending more to run that in England at Santa Pod. So the season will get underway in a few weeks' time. Um, yeah, GT4 4 hour at Bathurst. Well, yeah, I mean, if you did it at, I don't know whether they'd want it, but if you did it at Phillip Island, why couldn't you do the Phillip Island 6 hour or the Phillip Island 8 hour even? Because I mean, then you're not stepping on anybody's toes in terms of you can't have two Bathurst 6 hours, but you could have a Phillip Island 6 hour and it'd be fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just find a weekend in 52 weeks.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. That's the problem at the moment. SB saying quite rightly, yeah, the amount of categories is way too excessive.
Oh, that's not a new thing.
Yeah, we know. Well, as I said, you'll see one of the videos that I've got to try and get up is my interview with the guy from Ferrari about that. But as he said, he said ultimately, he said the market decides. He said he said we've got 16 cars. We had 16 cars on the grid for the opening round at Mount Panorama. Now, there were quite a few internationals came in because it was Mount Panorama, and they all just wanted, lots of, they were drivers from Japan and from China and Korea and all sorts of other Asian places, as well as some of the Australians. But he was confident that they're going to probably have 18 to 20 cars for most of the series. And he said, well, if we can get 18 to 20 cars, then there's clearly a need for it. So
that would be better than what Ferrari Challenge UK can manage.
Yeah, well, let's see. I mean, this is what they were planning, and let's see what happens. They all behaved themselves. The racing wasn't. The racing at the front was pretty good. They behaved themselves better than I thought they would. The cars, as I said last week, were turned out beautifully. They were really interesting. Might try and get Rod. I noticed Rod Smith was up there competing with Jim Policina. In terms of names, Jim Policina and Rod Smith. Rod from the Utes and other things years and years ago.
Rod Wilson.
Rod Wilson, sorry, Rod Wilson. Rod Smith was a sportsman. Rod Wilson, and he. I didn't have a chance to talk. I saw him running around. I was going to try and catch up with him, but yeah.
Well, Rod's the team boss of one of the two Ferrari teams that is fielding the cars in the series. So that's and Rod very generously donated his race car to Ernst Kirchmeier, not. Ernst Kirchmeier, after Ernst crashed his car at the cutting in what was pretty much the only incident of note in the Ferrari Challenge all weekend. So
and
they
had
that
strange
fairly
one too, because he sort of just went off by himself in the. He looked to be very comfortable because he was dicing, and though the two of them were dicing, and though the two leaders both went off, but it had nothing to do with each other. I mean, they both went off of their own accord. It wasn't as if they took each other out, even though they were close. When they were racing close, wasn't a problem, and then suddenly they just took each other out, and someone inherited the lead. But it seemed to be a very good atmosphere there. As I said, the way it was all presented was very professional. I'm sure it'll go down very well on the SRO calendar. It's looking really good for if you like your sports cars and all the rest of it. You're going to get an absolute surfeit of great categories and beautiful cars, and they're going to sort of obviously target that particular market like they did with the GT Festival down at Phillip Island, and that was enormously successful. So they've got their launch coming up, I think in early April. So we'll have a look what goes on there. But that's it'll be interesting to see what sort of fields they get for GT3 as well, because there was certainly talk at Bathurst that they might be struggling for numbers in GT3 this year because a lot of people have jumped to GT4 because it's just so much more affordable.
Yeah, it's and GT3 have been struggling for numbers for a little bit for a couple of years. So it's I'd very much love to see some more GT3s out on the track during their season.
Well, the appeal for the drivers is not as much local too. They cut their teeth here, and as soon as they get the opportunity, even if it's on the slimmest amount of dollars, they're overseas and trying to race them over there and be part of the series wherever they are. It's sort of
Well, it may be like the old days of Carrera Cup Asia, where you had people like Jeff Morgan and Rusty French going overseas. And Rusty came on the show and said, "Look," he said, "it's much cheaper for me to just leave a car over in, base it in Sepang or base it in China." And just fly in and out, and it's much cheaper than sort of travelling around Australia, because obviously the distances to take your car around are huge anyway. So they just sort of leave everything. They leave everything over there, and they just fly in and out. And it's bring the license, bring the helmet and the driving suit, make a sort of 4 day weekend of it, and you do that 6 to 8 times a year, and great way to go
and
racing.
if you're young, you chase it
I
around
remember,
the world over there. You don't chase it here. So why would a team be based here and trying to run it here when the cost is so high as well? And you've got the proper talent to pit yourself up against when you're overseas anyway.
Yeah, Paul
I
saying
remember like
circuit.
Mel.
Go,
I was
Mark.
just thinking that on similar principle. You know, remember Melrose and Rod Forbes before him running VLN series for
With the Commodore.
quite a few years. Of course, Mel in the Commodore, yeah, and Rod Forbes in a variety of vehicles. But yeah, that Commodore, and he is, of course, one of Mel's Mirage Cup cars over there, running over there as well, or more than one of the Cup cars actually. Yeah, they're it has its attractions, definitely. The more compact nature of some of our overseas. Sometimes, the size of Australia counts against us
Yeah,
against
the tyranny of
national
distance.
competition.
It's
Yeah.
funny. I talking to one of the internationals at a Japanese photographer at Bathurst, and he got caught out badly because he said I got into Sydney. I thought I'd really like to just pop down and get some shots down at Phillip Island. So it was like, what train do I get to Phillip Island? And they went. Yeah, the one that goes sort of about 12 hours, if you like, and then you got
Mm.
another sort of 4 hours to get down to the island. And he said, "Oh, he said, I knew it was big, but he said I just kept travelling. He said, I just
Oh,
to come
bullet trains
here."
here.
Yeah, he said I came out here. He said, and we were driving and driving and driving and driving, and I thought, surely
Ah,
it can't be this far away.
he hasn't done his research. Come on, Australia. It's Australia. It's a huge continent. We look, as Brett knows, I travel up and down New South Wales, South Australia, Victoria regularly each year. You've got to put in 8 to 10, 12 hours some days, and you get to places. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but when you like,
Australia is almost exactly the same size as the 48 states of the United States, if you don't count
Exactly.
Alaska and Hawaii.
Yeah.
or
It's
Canada.
or Greenland, if you want to continue that.
Yes,
But yeah, no, but
We do
the
it
yeah,
better
separately.
the
market.
lower
Soon to be coming
48.
to Tasmania. New
Yeah,
Zealand looks nice. They got some good golf courses in New Zealand.
Mhm.
the NASCAR IndyCar states
Yeah.
of the US.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay, the my, 5 litre versions to add cars. No, it's
Well,
cheaper, but
the Mark One is a 5 liter.
yeah, and
They
then
came in the Ford Focus and Mazda 3 body shapes.
and the engine. I mean, the engine isn't particularly like the engine that they're using in the new IRC cars is very sort of it's basically a crate engine. It's relatively inexpensive, powerful, reliable. I mean, it really is the engine they just should have stuck into the damn supercars. That was always Jason Bright's thing. When they talked around, he said, "Why don't they just grab NASCAR engines? They've got a Toyota, a Chev, and a Ford engine, and we can land them in Australia for about and a Dodge if you want to go there, and we can land them in Australia for about $18,000 each, and you can run them all bloody year."
Might have given the Chrysler 300 a life as a racing car.
Anyway, I could still do it just to win the track.
Anyway, that's just about our hour up for this week. So we managed to get another hour of nonsense out. Stay tuned to the In-Pit Lane. Oh yes, quickly, Mark.
More nonsense.
Oh yeah, Summer and Tool joining the 888 race engineering team as their new GT4 racer. So go Summer, young Queensland XL Cup racer who's moving up in the world. So congratulations, Summer. It's fantastic to see one of the state level drivers that I see week in every month.
I think I did see that announcement. Yes.
Yeah. So once
17
again,
years.
once again, good to see them. Once again, good to see sort of 888 getting involved, and yet again another GT4, another GT4 entry. So it's so I'm really looking forward to that series. Should be a lot of fun. Should be some great racing, and there's Toyota Supras are on the way. There's a couple that have been ordered. There's another Mustang apparently on here already. A Nissan. I think there's a Nissan GT, Nissan X GT.
Z, you mean?
Z, sorry.
Nissan Z.
Nissan Z. Cars GT4.
Oh, look out. The Japanese onslaught's on its way. Good stuff. It's going to be fun. Throw that cat amongst the pitches.
They may not have a lot of Japanese GT3s these days, but yeah, be fantastic.
The interesting thing is Nissan still came out and said, that they're still supporting the GT3 Skyline. They're just saying that, it is out there and it is being raced in Japan. But they said, we are supporting the car wherever it is around the world. And if people are interested in racing them, then we're interested in providing some technical assistance.
Beautiful cars.
And, keeping it going.
It's a class car it's a class car in Super GT, so still going that way.
Still very competitive, and it's running at the top end of Super Taiku, which is their sort of other GT, their Sprint GT3 series, a bit like sort of GT. Jared's saying closer to Gen 3 was sequential. I think he means the IRC cars, but. But anyway, look, let's wrap it up there. Keep an eye out on the In-Pit Lane YouTube channel. If we do head out to Team 18, I'll have to reach out to them. I've got an awful lot on for the next 4 days. So whether we get out there or not, I've got to sort of recharge some, get some equipment and get everything back from the. Back working again after Saturday, and whether I sort of get out, I was hoping to get out to the state round on at least Friday morning. I've got things up there, but I'm thinking it's less and less likely that I'm going to make Sandown now, even though it's only just up the road. I'm thinking that I'm probably not going to have the time to make it, simply because I just don't have the time. It's easy to go out and film all this stuff. It's an absolute pain in the arse to edit the damn stuff, and So anyway, we will see you next week, same time here on Full Course Yellow. We'll continue on the Tuesday nights at the moment. As I said last week, there's something else planned at the moment through Channel 31 here in Melbourne that might take some. Take some time out of, a lot of time out of the In-Pit Lane and the motorsport stuff, because we are doing a new program. It has been approved, and you'll find out more about that further down the track when we get a time slot and when we're ready to announce it. But it's big news. It's funny. I mean, all of who'd have thought that the way to get huge support for a motor racing program was to just drop all the motor racing. Okay, we'll catch you. We'll catch you next week for Full Course Yellow. Stay on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. If you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe. It is very important, and share it around too. Like let all your mates know, particularly people interstate. We've got really good numbers, but right now still, more than 90% of the people who watch the YouTube channel come from Victoria. So yes, and there's it's a big country, and we'd like to get into some other states as well, and hopefully have some people perhaps from other states join Mark. We have Queensland covered, so anybody from New South Wales or South Australia, Tasmania, Western Australia, just Northern Territory, anywhere, Cocos Islands, Christmas Island, Bangkok as well. We're happy to have anybody.
The French Island General Store's up for sale, I heard this week.
Well, there you go. I could live there. That would keep me away from everybody. That'd be lovely.
That's right. Read my mind.
Okay, we'll see you. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us on Full Course Yellow. Until next week, from all of us, we'll see you next week. Bye for now, everybody.